story on how she was caught.
The Fontana Police Department received a report of a robbery on May 8th at the Kohl's department store at about 11 o'clock in the morning on Mother's Day. The suspect in this crime was described as an elderly female driving a dark-colored sedan. We received another call on the 9th of a robbery that had taken place at the Target department store located at Sierra and Slover in the south end of our city. This suspect in this crime was also described as an elderly female driving a dark sedan. At that point, we were under the impression that these crimes were likely related. The detectives began working the case when we were hit a third time on the 10th at Walmart at about 11:30 in the morning. This was an unsuccessful robbery. However, the MO of the suspect as well as the suspect vehicle was consistent with the prior two robberies. This morning at about 9:45, there was another report of an armed robbery in the parking lot of the Target department store in the north end of the city of Fontana. Officers responded and again received information from the victim that it was the elderly female suspect that has been dubbed the Granny Bandit that was responsible for that robbery as well. Here to talk about the way that the Granny Bandit was taken into custody is Chief Rod Jones.
Thank you, Billy. Good afternoon. Today at about 12:50 this afternoon, officers were sent to the area of Sierra and Riverside, which is in the north end of Fontana, in reference to a vehicle matching the description to what has been dubbed the Granny Bandit. When officers arrived, they detained a 51-year-old Fontana resident, Dottie Wasbotton, who was arrested at the scene after officers found property from one of the victims inside of the vehicle. On top of that, the vehicle was pretty much a perfect match for the description for what we earlier had. What is interesting about this unique case is the unique nature in which the subject was apprehended. I am very proud to say that earlier today, one of our crime analysts, Corinne Terrell, who was working on the flyer to get out to other agencies so they could look for her as well, on her own, during her lunch break, was driving around. The reporting party to our officers who apprehended the suspect in this crime was our crime analyst, Corinne Terrell. Now, because of the ongoing nature of this investigation, we are going to be very limited into any questions that we can answer. At this very time, several detectives from the Fontana Police Department are executing search warrants and looking for additional evidence to these crimes. But I wanted to introduce you. She will not be able to speak at all about any of the events that took place earlier today, but I am very proud to introduce to you our crime analyst, Corinne Terrell. Corinne? Corinne, on behalf of the community of Fontana, thank you so very much for your dedication and commitment. Thank you. Folks, with that, we have a picture of the suspect, and I'm going to turn that back over to Sergeant Billy Green, and then we'll address some questions that you may have. But again, folks, we're going to be very limited to give you any specifics as to the ongoing investigation, because as I say, all we have done at this point is we have arrested the suspect. The investigation is ongoing at this very moment. Sergeant Green?
The person in custody is Dottie Wasbotton. She's 51 years of age, and yes, she is a grandmother.
Any idea why she was doing this?
I'm not, I know that the detectives are still busy doing their interview, and I'm not exactly sure what they've been able to glean at this point in the investigation.
Sergeant, does she have a record at all?
With the investigatory questions, I'm going to turn it over to Lieutenant Angela Stover. She's a lieutenant in charge of the Investigations Bureau of the Fontana Police Department.
And she's going to bring Sergeant Pat Mackey with her, who's actually been heading this investigation. As far as the previous cases that she's been involved in, we're choosing at this time not to release any of that information. The second question was, who had the second question?
But she has been in trouble before. You can assess it, or you can address it.
She's had contact with law enforcement before, yes.
Can you tell us if the gun that she allegedly was carrying was actually loaded? Was it a real gun?
It was not loaded, and we haven't completed the search warrant on that vehicle yet. We suspect that it is not a real firearm, but until we complete the search warrant on the vehicle, we are not able to completely confirm that.
Have you recovered any of the stolen items, the purses?
Yes, sir.
Lieutenant, would you say that any of the grandchildren either live nearby or in her home? Or what was her life situation like there at the house?
We do not know that at this time.
Any idea why some suspects may think she was in her 80s? Was she doing anything to disguise, I mean, some of the victims, doing anything to disguise herself, walk differently? Earlier, we thought that she was going to be in her 80s, and now we find out that she's in her 50s.
We did have some mixed report on the age. We also had her dressing the part maybe of what some would feel is more elderly than what she is. One of the reports indicated she was wearing a muumuu-type dress and a scarf around her head, covering part of her face.
She lives here in Fontana?
Yes, sir.
In your questioning of the suspect, has she given you a motive for this? Any of these?
They're still conducting the interview. The only thing that was mentioned that we're willing to release at this time is she's having some difficulties, like many people in the community.
Lieutenant,
Yes.
I know that one of your workers here at the police department actually spotted the vehicle.
Yes.
That seems rather small. I mean, just the one description. There must have been more to it than just seeing a dark sedan to work on. Can you tell us anything else about what you may have seen that alerted you?
Corinne could help us on that. However, she's doing all of the flyers that come through, go through our crime analysis unit. So she had been the one doing all of the putting together and compilation of the files for everything that came out on the suspect vehicle. What I can tell you is that the vehicle was very descriptive as far as the tires were concerned.
So there's something specific
Something
about the
unique to that vehicle.
and you can't tell us what that is? Or what?
Was it the
Hubcaps is what you saw? Yes, the hubcaps.
What was notable about them?
They were missing. Hubcaps were missing on the front of the vehicle.
Some people speculated that she was wearing a mask to appear older than age 50 or 55. Was there any evidence of that?
No. We don't have anything at this time. The mask, or the scarf was actually used as like a bonnet.
I'm sorry if I missed it, but did you arrest her at her home?
No, sir.
Where did you arrest her?
At Sierra near the 15 freeway.
And what was her reaction when she saw police officers there?
Shocked.
Did you arrest her in her vehicle, or was she just walking down the street?
She was in her vehicle.
Can you elaborate on the shock?
Did
Was
she
she
say
not
anything?
expecting
Yeah.
you to show up? Is that what happened? She thought she'd given you the slip?
Expecting that once she told us that it was not her, that she'd be released.
Really? Why do you suppose that came out?
Couldn't speculate.
The belongings that you recovered, were they from the victim that was held up earlier at the Target on 7th Avenue this morning?
Yes.
Did you recover items from the other victims? Or two other victims?
We have.
So, I'm sorry to keep going on this, but did she offer up some sort of explanation and say, I'm just a poor woman trying to trying to get through the day, or, I mean,
She's not guilty.
that's what she said?
Yes.
And she denied it when you found her? She told you it wasn't her at first?
Absolutely.
Did she
Even when you
resist
showed
at
her
all?
belongings?
Sorry?
Did she resist at all?
Not at all.
Did she still maintain her innocence after pulling up these items that belonged to the victims and showing them to her?
Yes.
Did she offer an explanation as to how they got there?
She did. I'm not willing to share that at this time.
Can you talk to us about the rarity? I mean, how often are you seeing women in their 50s go up to people with guns, fake guns, real guns, and robbing people in this town?
I couldn't give you specific statistics. However, it's rare. It's rare that you have more oftentimes than not, you're going to have a male that's committing that type of crime with a firearm in a violent type situation, such as a robbery. But it happens.
For the victims, do they have something in common? Can you elaborate on the victims? Do you think that there are more victims?
All of the female?
Just all female?
Yes. All four of our victims were women.
Was this a toy gun, an air gun? What kind of gun was it?
We will not know until we complete the search warrant on the vehicle. It's still pending.
But a convincing looking item?
From the butt of the gun, it's all we can see. It looks like a firearm.
And she's 51, correct?
Yes,
It doesn't matter whether it was a real gun or not, it's armed
Yeah.
robbery.
correct.
How many grandchildren, do we know?
I believe it's two? One?
One grandchild?
Did they live with her?
Not that we're aware of.
And as far as her bail, what's next? What can you tell us about that?
I do not know what her specific bail will be. When we are finished with the process with her here with the interview, she'll be booked at West Valley Detention Center.
And this is a very serious charge. It's a strong arm robbery. Tell us what kinds of parameters the DA will be working with on
Yes, I don't know what the sentence would be.
But how serious of a crime are we talking about?
One of the most serious crimes that we have in the penal code.
Has the vehicle been towed? Is it being, are agents going over it for evidence?
Yes, ma'am. Our forensic crime, our evidence technicians are going through the vehicle as we speak.
Right, well,
Can we get a, is there
Keep
any way to
knocking this
post
over.
that photo?
yeah, I'll take care of it on the whiteboard after we're done, and if that's, does that work for the cameraman if I put it on the whiteboard?
Oh, actually, also, do you have copies of that?
The
Yes, I could email them to you all. I'll collect business cards after we're done here, or with email addresses, and I'll fire those off right away. Is that fair? And I'll leave it up. You guys can photograph it, and then I'll email it as well. Okay. Take care of you guys. All right. Well, if there's no other questions, thank you for coming out, and I appreciate your guys' support and your help in helping us locate the granny bandit. Thank you.